okay, let me just say, we had a bike left in our front yard this weekend.
A bike you owned or that somebody abandoned?
A bike we own, and needless to say, the kids were careless and they left it overnight. And when we woke up this morning, that next morning, it was gone.
So this was Saturday night?
This was Saturday night, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so and it was a fairly new bike, and we had a matching set. So we were talking about how we were gonna discipline Vinny on it. We weren't gonna make him buy a whole matching one or that, but we wanted him to realize the consequences.
Yeah, because that isn't an inexpensive loss.
Yeah. No, not at all. And it's a teachable moment. But I have been on Nextdoor app since our dog Talon ran away, probably 7-8 years ago, maybe longer. She was gone for like 6-7 hours, something like that. And somebody suggested Nextdoor, and I downloaded the app and used it. And sure enough, someone spotted her, and we actually found her, got her back.
Oh, wow.
She was covered in poison ivy, which a half-naked Vincent hugged her, as a toddler. And was
and then
coated
he got
in
poison ivy as well.
So this is embarrassing stories for Vincent episode. So I've kept that app on, thinking almost as like a thank you for its existence. And, it pops up, I heard gunfire in this neighborhood and all that.
Every summer.
Yeah, and I'm fine with it. I had it in my head that I'm going to at least monitor this app somewhat so that hopefully I can help someone else.
Sure.
It turns out that someone else was me again. I put a picture of the bike because we're missing a bike that looks just like this. If anyone sees it, please let me know. I sent it on Nextdoor, the Ring app, because we have a Ring doorbell. They've got another thing. And then I posted it on Facebook. Not 6 hours later, a teenage boy comes to the door, hat in hand, like, I found this bike on the road, and it matched the picture.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Kristen immediately recognized what she thought was happening here, and she said, oh, thank you so much. She didn't have any questions. She didn't, right? No scrutiny.
Yes.
And the bike is back in our possession.
And unfortunately, it was covered in poison ivy, and Vinny got again.
He did.
You are listening to The Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I've compiled a list over the years of things that just bother, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you, and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey.
Dunning-Kreuger Effect. Familiar?
I used to be an expert, but lately I've been doubting myself.
You were planning that one, weren't you? This is another one we want to preface with. We aren't necessarily the experts here. I didn't do a bunch of research for this. I'm going to get things wrong. You probably know people know better, the listeners. So this one is just we'll just float around this topic and see what we know.
Yeah. If we get something wrong, call it out in the comments. We may revisit it in a future episode.
We may take a shot.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, no, and it would be good to get the story straight. We would gladly do a what do they call it in the newspaper?
A retraction.
We could do that. But I think at the high level, Dunning-Kruger Effect. You got a feel for it?
Sure. So my understanding, and I'm going to do it with paper because for me it's a visual, is that there is two different axes. So on the one, we've got the amount of experience that somebody has, and on the other, we've got the amount of confidence.
Yeah.
And so when we don't have a lot of experience, we have a lot of confidence because we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. And then very quickly, there's a sharp drop-off. As we learn more, we learn just the depth and the breadth of what it is that we thought we might have known that we actually have no clue about. And we start to sort of hit a bit of a valley, but then we see a little bit of a recovery as experience catches up.
Yeah.
We realize, okay, maybe we do know something about this. And then there may be another drop where we get a little bit of an imposter syndrome before things sort of level out. Is that a fair explanation of Dunning-Kruger?
And I'm hoping you're going to take a screenshot of that and put
Look
it
at
right
that
on.
expert.
Look at that.
Look at this photograph.
This is something I have seen plenty of throughout the years, even pre-COVID, where you get those folks that they have very little experience, but they're so confident on what they're talking about. And I want to take a tangent to it that I think we can use as a parallel. Wait, if I'm taking a tangent, is it still parallel? Anyway, you can't be tangent and parallel, I think.
Not without cosine, right?
Right, yeah. So, and let's maybe as we go through this conversation, we can kind of bounce between expertise and singing. I think you can replace expertise with
A shot?
with singing live, or you're singing in a band or whatever.
I have no idea where you're going with
Yeah.
this.
So it's people who aren't very good at singing. A lot of times are very confident.
Oh.
That they're good. Now, of course, I think
Okay, so we're thinking American Idol
Yeah,
tryouts,
yeah,
where
yeah.
nobody has been nice enough to be mean to them and say
Right.
they're not good at this.
Yeah, and I imagine the graph's going to be a little bit different, because I think a very, very little experience singing, your confidence will be low, obviously. But I think it ramps up pretty quickly to where, like, you get someone who's not very good, and they think they're great, and then you
Is
take
there like a Z-axis for self-awareness then?
maybe, yeah. Now it's a surface. I'm not sure what the blanket looks like there. But then, of course, on the other extreme, I've known some just absolute stellar vocalists, and they're humble.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's even you talked about imposter syndrome on the tail. I think there's probably another far extreme where you're an incredible singer and you know it, and you're just like the ego of the band.
You don't want to. Well, okay,
yeah, I would say
you're taking it a different direction, because you were saying that you have confidence, extreme confidence, because you know you're good.
Yeah.
But I guess that at that point we're out of Dunning-Kruger and we're into just individual temperament, self-awareness, and the ability to exercise humility.
Yeah, and I think that's a trait that, and I don't want to make this all about music, but I've certainly seen, like, lead singers, you kind of have to have an ego to be a front man.
Sort of, yeah. So I think of the exact opposite example, because this is the name that comes to mind. Eddie Vedder was, I think, a very talented front man. Certainly, a decent vocalist. Maybe people could make fun of the fact they didn't understand what he said.
Right.
But he did bring something that helped get Pearl Jam out in front of the masses and really defined the sound for a time.
Yeah,
he
sure.
was probably one of the big three, big five of the whole Seattle grunge movement.
I think he's one of the only ones alive still.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that too hard. But you're right. So early in his career, he had terrible stage fright. And one of the things that he would do is actually turn his back to the audience and perform to his band. And I guess later he built up some confidence, or I don't know, took a class or read a book or something, and he ended up, kind of breaking through that shell.
Yeah.
However, you compare that to, like, your stereotypical rock star who's up there vamping and full of self-confidence and playing without a shirt on because they, want to feel vulnerable but invulnerable at the same time. And I feel like you've got a lot of different temperaments and personalities that are coming to this stage with different approaches.
Yeah, and then you got a guy like Maynard that, like, purposely would be on the back of the stage, still facing forward, but he'd be in the back, like, dimly lit, and the drummer would be front and center, and that was just kind of his, like, persona there too. And Yeah.
Yeah, and well, and then let's go down a rabbit hole, shall we?
All right.
How many different bands over the years have had to adopt a persona?
Yeah.
You've got Kiss, who were painting their faces,
Yep.
and then the Kiss for the Trailer Park, Insane Clown Posse. You've got Slipknot and bands like Gwar that would cover their faces and maybe even have a rotating cast of individuals, but they all were sort of hiding something about themselves or creating an onstage persona, maybe because them as individuals, they didn't feel like they had the charisma or the confidence or the personality to be able to carry the show.
Here Come the Mummies. My understanding is they had to cover their faces because they all had contracts for session guitarists and musicians.
I heard it was because they were all bald.
That could be too.
I recently read that. That's not a joke, but
Maynard from Tools got a wig guy.
Does he really?
Yeah,
is he bald?
Oh yeah. You think that mohawk's real?
I don't know what's real.
Yeah, no. He's yeah. But he does that. It's part of his act, and with Tool, with Pussifer and A Perfect Circle, that he's got
kind of a persona to lead each of them.
Mm-hmm.
That I mentioned Slipknot, but the lead singer for Slipknot, he has a second band, Stone Sour.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And completely different persona when he's up there, different style of music. Yeah, I think that tracks. So wrapping that back over to the original idea here of Dunning-Kruger, then is there some sort of jumping off point as a musician, you think, where they're down in the first valley of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
I mean, perhaps. I think you could take this to musicians too, and not just vocalists. But like having the confidence to play a solo. I've heard plenty of guitarists get out there and try to make it work, and they just don't know how bad it is because they're not good enough to know how bad it is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think for singing, I think it's especially true because the singer doesn't, unless you record it and go back and listen to it, the singer doesn't hear the same thing that the audience hears.
Yeah.
Right. Especially because of the
mechanics,
the bone structure in the minute. Yeah.
Sure.
But with a guitar, a lot of times, you can strum it. And I mean, you hear it out of your amp. It's basically essentially what's happening out there outside of like feedback and stuff like that.
So I think maybe we got a little taste of this when we had Smiley on a few weeks ago, because that's one of the things he said. He said, I don't think of myself as a musician, but I've just learned a bunch of songs over the years. And at some point you sort of graduate from, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing to, well, I have to know a little something about what I'm doing because I can replicate this hundreds of times in different iterations.
And I think the confidence to get on stage and to be in a band and obviously Smiley, as I said too, I mean, he knows so many songs. You don't get there by hacking it. He's put in the time and he's humble. I think he was being humble because he's fantastic.
Do you think there's another level here where maybe, I mean, he is a humble guy. Smiley, you're great. We like you. Even if you did wreck the rabbit trail thing for us, which you're still on probation for that one.
It's true.
But
he did level up the shot though.
He did. Yeah, we're gonna have, the next guest is gonna have to really research the show and really bring their A game. But do you think there's another level here where maybe there are two types of experience? Maybe track one is earned experience, learned experience, and then track two would be formal training in academia.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like this crosses over into other conversations that we've had in the past where some people maybe don't have a credential or a formal education, and so they may actually have a whole lot of knowledge, but they lack confidence in themselves or their ability because they don't, you may not know music theory, even though you know how to play all these great solos and the basics of, the chord progressions and where to put your fingers on the strings. You don't know, okay, well, this has to resolve in this way, and these, whatever are compatible with these, whatever. I'm not a musician, so I'm not well versed enough to produce examples there.
And the interesting thing about that is there's another dimension you can look at, which is the type of music you're playing. You can get away with an awful lot, and apologies to the true fans out there, but country music. I mean, when my buddy asked me to play drums for a band, and he told me he's going to play country, I was like, I could.
Yeah,
that I can
no
do.
problem. Yeah,
I was like, you want to do some, 90s alternative? I'd be like, well, I gotta work harder. But you can get away with, I think, non-traditional learning for certain genres. I mean,
so maybe on the issue of expertise, then it's less about whether or not somebody could do it. And it's more about something being domain specific and the nuance and the complexity that may exist.
Yeah, but then that also gets into like what is good. I've long had conversations with friends about who's the best band to come out of the '90s. And you could hands down.
Yeah,
you could rattle off a bunch of bands, and you notice pretty quickly who's the musician in the room when they're saying stuff like, Dream Theater and Tool and...
who likes math.
And that gets into it. But because those are important, those are pluses for a musician. Famously, Dream Theater is like a musician's band, right?
Sure.
Normal people don't listen to it because it's, like you said, math. They're basically playing for, the musicians in the room, and that gets them more points because it's complicated, it's difficult in that way. But then you can look at, picture another band like Bush or something like that. Catchy tunes, pretty straightforward.
Drop D tuned and bar chords.
Yeah. And then you start looking at different bands and early Tool stuff. No guitar solos. I mean, really, it was super complicated riffs and stuff. But Adam Jones wasn't shredding the guitar. Now I think he's gotten to a level now that I'd say a lot of guitarists, appreciate it. But he's about tone and complexity and all that. And Slash is shredding it up. And I've actually heard a lot of guitarists actually point out Slash isn't that great. But it sounds complicated. It sounds
sure,
good.
Yeah.
So
if you can fake it, you can make it.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's the time in between the notes, and now you can get into bass playing here. There are bass players that get paid by the note, where they're just that is
that whole jazz movement of just throw as much in there, make it as complex as possible. I don't have any love for that. Maybe I'm stupid.
No. And I think you're making my point. If you're listening to the music for the music, that's going to be a distraction, I would think. But if you're listening to it for the...
I think there's something about building anticipation.
Oh, yeah.
And then giving somebody an expected resolve. I think when you have to spend too much time thinking about it and it's not predictable and it feels chaotic, there's just no appeal in that for me.
Yeah. Whereas listening to music and it's all 4/4 timing, which goes to your point, it's predictable.
We white people, we want to clap on the ones and the threes.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of bands in like progressive rock world where yes, it's very purposely, at a time, or very often you'll have the drummer is playing one time the signature and the bassist is playing another, but they meet every three phrases, they meet up and it syncs and it
so this is
works.
like some sort of funky haiku. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna start. We're way over here and we're gonna intersect, and that makes it make sense, but only if you know all these incredibly complex rules.
And then you're probably, if I'm going to be honest, I'm probably liking something that isn't necessarily pleasing to the ear, but I like it for a different reason. And then now I want more of that.
Okay.
So, yeah,
and that maybe that speaks to something else about music that some people perhaps take for granted, but that's the motivation for why are you listening to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't listen to country music, but I've heard a country song one time, "Waiting on a Woman," and I thought, that I resonate with that. That makes sense.
Yeah. With the message and
just the message and the feeling of the song, and it was a little bit, upbeat and quirky, but it was sort of just driving home a point that, if you got a beautiful woman at home and she's taking her sweet time, she's doing it because she's making herself pretty for you, so you better just wait.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's okay. So that's not the porch collapsed, the dog died, my pickup truck got slashed or whatever. So I could relate.
Yeah, you brought up another good point, the lyrics themselves. And I think I've heard, Bob Dylan famously not a great singer. But
I don't disagree.
But a great songwriter, and
storyteller,
storyteller, and that's that. Again, and we are way off base here. I got something maybe to bring us back, but let's finish this out, because you've got somebody listening to the music because they like the message, they like the songwriting in general, and you don't need to reward. You don't need to judge the
musicianship.
Yeah.
Confession time.
Okay.
Not a popular opinion in Christian circles, so I'm going to catch some flack for this if anybody in my circles listens to this. I generally don't like worship music.
Okay.
If I listen to worship music, it's because I want to focus on the meaning of the words, and because there's some season in life where that's important to me. But it doesn't sound like anything that I would just put on my Spotify playlist.
Now, wasn't there a big push for having rock or more modern music in the church? Is that different?
It's not. I think that you've got a smaller population of interested talent because they realize that that's not as commercially viable if you're just chasing it for the money. I think, and again, this hot takes. So sorry if I'm offending you right now, but if you've gotten 30 whatever episodes into this podcast and you haven't turned it off yet, you won't over this one. But I think click.
Is that how you hang up a podcast?
Why do we only have 11 views on this episode? I think that worship music has, it's like all things, it's got a diverse set of folks that have different motivations. And
can you spell out what do you mean by worship music?
Yeah, so worship music would be music that is written with Christian themes for a purpose of thinking about God and in a spiritual discipline sense. Like one would listen to this music in an effort to connect with God, to kind of focus their mind, their attitudes, their behaviors on something that would be honoring to God.
While taking a shot.
It's okay. Take a communion shot.
There you go. So the genre doesn't matter here?
It is. There are lots of different genres.
Okay.
You'll find Christian rap. You'll find
good.
Christian. A lot of it sounds sort of pop country.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't care for it, at least the mainstream stuff. If you go and you turn the radio dial and you get to one of the Christian stations, Air One, K-Love, something like that, it's going to be ballady.
Yeah. Okay. I'm picturing it now. I when you first brought it up, I was picturing like gospel.
Gospel's
can be part of it. Yeah,
for sure. But the hot take here, I guess, is that I think that the folks that pursue that career, they've got to have a certain intent, and a lot of them have a noble intent of wanting to do something that is true to them and their experience in life, and they genuinely want to produce something worshipful because that's the desire of their heart.
Yeah.
And I think some people are strictly there because they couldn't cut it on the pop circuit.
Yep.
And
you've said this before, yeah.
Yeah, and they're good enough for this, and everybody's kind of willing to accept the fact that, okay, well, they're super talented, they made something catchy, we like to sing it. And Katy Perry is an example of this, actually. So Katy Perry actually started out as a Christian artist, and then she was good enough, she didn't have to be, and then it became very apparent through, I Kissed a Girl and whatever else, that those themes weren't important to her personally. It was, she just wanted to get famous.
Okay. I'm going to try to right the ship a little bit because we opened with the Dunning-Kreuger effect, and maybe let's try to drape it on science a little bit now.
Okay.
See if anything sticks. Because I want to point out that it was my understanding that so the the actual term came from Dunning and Kreuger from a study many years ago, and that's kind of how the phrase was coined. But I've heard that folks have kind of revisited kind of like replication and found that have debunked it essentially and said it's not true. Yes?
Is that the end, or is there another point?
Well, I think, and maybe this is where you're going, I think somebody has debunked the debunked.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
This is where we maybe get stuff wrong.
No, I think we've both kind of read the same sort of articles or literature or whatever here. Mine would all come from Pop Science. I'm not reading academic journals on this. But, so one major issue just in science in general is the replicability. Mm-hmm. First of all, the whole p-value of 0, or of 5%, right?
The 0.05.
0.05, p-value of 0.05. That was sort of arbitrarily picked once upon a time, and everybody just used it. Mm-hmm. So, one, people are asking the question, okay, why is this measure of significance significant? Mm-hmm. But two, a lot of research, even very expensive research done on topics like cancer, which may have a lot of layers of accountability and probably like a IRB. When they go back and try to replicate it, it's like sub 50%, and probably a lot lower. I'm thinking probably in the 30 percentile. So replication is a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Add into that the fact that now we're talking about a softer science with the social sciences. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to make a whole other branch of people mad, but psychology, sociology, when you are designing a study and when you try to replicate that study, you're not dealing with gears and electricity and stuff that can be objectively measured. You have a subjectivity to whatever your pool is. You've got a lot of other potential interactions depending on how your experimental design is done, depending on who's administering the questionnaires and all of that.
And that subjectivity can change over decades, right? I mean, so I imagine if you tried to replicate something at the same time as the study was going on, you would have a better chance of getting something similar than if you wait you go 20 years later.
I would think a study on something like Dunning-Kruger might be different post-COVID than pre-COVID. Yeah, there's a lot of like cultural, sociological sort of things that I think may be influencing factors that maybe cannot be controlled for. Yeah. So the deck is stacked against you if you're in the social sciences for that reason, I think, and among many other reasons. So the Dunning-Kruger effect was very famously, maybe 5 years ago. Does this timing seem about right?
Well, I would say probably more than 5 because 5 years ago was COVID. Okay. Where I think you got to add 2 or 3 years every time you say.
Sometime within the last decade.
Yeah,
probably
for sure.
Safer phrasing. Sure. Sometime within the last decade, what was selling or issues of Time magazine or wherever people read about these things, Dunning-Kruger effect has been debunked. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you get into it, maybe it's not like fully debunked. Maybe it's here's another piece of evidence that challenges the assumptions in the original model.
Yeah.
But that's not what people want to read. They want to read the thing that you just learned about that all the academics and all the YouTube videos have been talking about is now not true. Yeah. It's all a lie. But then it got revisited again. Yep. And now most recently, it turns out maybe there's some teeth.
Okay. So we followed the same kind of breadcrumbs as it were. and the thing that got me when I read the debunked that I want to put out on the table to admit my bias here, because when I heard that it was debunked, I was disappointed, and I was like, but it's so clear, I see it so
it passes
clearly.
the logic smell check.
The smell check, and to hear it wasn't true was kind of, it hit me personally, it was like.
Well, and I'll add a layer to that. We've talked about Summit before. We'll eventually do a whole episode on Summit, but we get together occasionally and hang out and talk about science and theology and anything interesting and try to avoid politics as much as we can. Mm-hmm. And there was a time where there were like bingo cards where if anybody said
we did that, didn't we?
A specific word that got said all the time, Eric would pop this card up like, boom, you just said Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes.
And that was one of them. So you had a personal attachment, a little bit of an individual bias
Yeah.
towards the Dunning-Kruger
Yeah.
effect.
I'm glad you remember that because I got a rabbit trail for you, Smiley. Wait, rabbit? Yeah, he likes
He's rabbit.
hole.
He's team rabbit hole. So
Yes, all right. I don't remember if I did the Summit one first. I think maybe I did, but either way, I played the same game at the soccer field where we had a big group of parents all on the sidelines, super energetic and all cheering for all the girls on the team when Vivian was playing Commonwealth CSC. And we tended to say a lot of the same things over and over again, like
good hustle.
yeah, good hustle, or man on, or
Corner kick, goal kick.
Yeah, well, not specifically us calling the game, but just rooting on our girls,
Oh, okay.
or even like, I mean, we say we should just cheer is what we should do. And parents out there, if your kid plays sports, just cheer for your kid. Don't.
No coach from the sidelines.
Yeah, don't like pinch in, get open, same team. Like,
Oh, yes.
So I had the bingo cards, if that's what we're calling them, ready, and I kind of kept it quiet. And then somebody said something, and I grabbed the card and I handed it to them, and then didn't make a big deal of it. And then someone else said something, and then all the parents are kind of all like, what's going on here? And then I had one guy, once the cat was out of the bag and they figured out what was going on, he was just rattling off terms, trying to get
as many cards as he could. I've actually thought about, because for $10 you can get 200 business cards printed up.
Yeah.
I've thought about making a business card that has all the common bald jokes that people make.
Yeah.
Oh, the glare,
Yeah.
just stupid stuff like that, and just keeping it in my wallet. And the moment somebody whips out a overused bald joke, just pull it out of my pocket and just look at them and say, "You're so unoriginal that I premeditated somebody would do this, and I just want you to see it in print."
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Get some better material. Make a bald joke if you want to, but let's create some new ones.
Didn't you say the super tall guy did that?
I've seen that. Yeah.
I've seen that where
No, I don't play basketball.
Yeah.
The weather's fine up here. all the
Yeah.
all the tropes.
okay. Yeah.
If we can do Dunning-Kruger all
Yes.
the way to completion here.
Please.
Dunning-Kruger started out as a thing, but then it lost confidence. And now it's slowly gaining
Slowly
that
coming
confidence
back.
back through additional study and experience. Isn't that the most Dunning-Kruger thing that the Dunning-Kruger effect could possibly do?
I think so.
We've got a brand new website. What is that site?
That is soapboxlex.com.
So you can check us out on the web. You can also check us out on your favorite streaming platforms, including
Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. And we're on Amazon.
If you want to check us out and actually see what you're listening to, we do have video as well on YouTube. And I don't know if you knew this, but Spotify does video too.